Hello, my friends, and welcome to Quartet. So nice to have you here on this very sunny, delightful, springy, well, it's summertime day here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. We're coming to you like this as we do fortnightly to talk about, have an intelligent conversation about some of the deep, kind of significant things that are transpiring in this planet today. And I'm joined, as I always am, by my friends Penny Kelly. Hello, Penny. How are you?
Hi, John. Hi, Greg and Kingsley. I'm doing well. Yes, summer has finally arrived here as well. Finally.
Well, I didn't think summer ever arrived in Michigan.
Oh, you're just rubbing it in.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Gregg Braden, how are you, my friend?
Hey, it's good to see everyone. I'm coming to you from our studio here in Santa Fe, and we have moved past the spring. We are now into the monsoon season that typically doesn't come until July. So go figure. We got more rain than we know what to do with here.
Yeah. And Kingsley Dennis from the UK. Hi, Kingsley.
Hello, John and Greg and Penny, and hello, everyone. Greetings from my secret location in the UK.
Right. We're never going to find you. That's all right. So thank you all very much. And let's get to our topic of today. I mean, we started last week talking about AI and alternative forms of war and other such things we've in the last couple of episodes. And what we've kind of identified and focused on were kind of aberrational or anomalous issues that are happening here that are we've never seen before. And they're emblematic, essentially, of a whole spectrum of things that don't make any sense. It's really my friend Gary Psychotic, who was a friend of Greg's and mine, and I used to talk about how it was getting just weirder and stranger and irrational. Every day it was more crazy things going on that seemed to make no sense whatsoever. And so you're looking at long-term kind of trends. Some people say it's a depopulation kind of agenda, and other things, and others are talking about a reset of the economy because of the overhang of the debt from the countries and the inability of the countries to be able to deal with their obligations and pensions and other things, Social Security and other such things. There are all these kind of different kind of notions, but they begs the larger question. If you kind of look at it, back away and look at it and say, wait a second, the stuff that's going on now just really seems to be orchestrated. This is pretty sophisticated. I mean, this is a grand strategy that's been in the making, executed for a long time. I mean, they've been putting fluoride in our water, and they put glyphosate in our food, and they've been doing chemtrails and barium and aluminum in the skies, and they've been doing this for decades, if and maybe even they've been setting this up longer than that. They're messing with the electromagnetic spectrum with 5G and trying to access our cells and our brains. They're doing things with satellites that are wild and crazy, and it's just kind of, you just say, wait a second, what's going on? And the natural inclination, as Greg has suggested, is to get focused on these little kind of things and who's going to win this election and so on, and not see the big picture. And today we want to talk a little bit about what that big picture is. What is this, and who is driving it, and where is it going?
I think the thing that I would say to start with is that, just like Greg said, we aren't looking at the bigger picture. When you look at the big picture, when I look at the big picture, what I see is a very common set of processes that are used to take over a planet without that planet knowing what's happening, without those people understanding, because they just haven't been exposed to what I'll call solar system-wide thinking, let alone interstellar kind of consciousness, let alone intergalactic kinds of concepts. They think about what's happening in their backyard. And so there has been a very, very carefully designed and planned takeover of planet Earth, because we are in a sector of the galaxy that is quite desirable. And we're also part of a group of stars that are controlled by nefarious people from other star systems that are seeking to get their hands on some very, very unique DNA, because DNA is the most in-demand commodity in the entire cosmos. It is used to create life in all sorts of places. And you need to study, how does that individual form of life develop in these conditions? And when you have expert geneticists and geoengineers that study planets and planetary systems and then seed life, DNA is what they need to be studying. So there's that whole aspect of the setup that typically is done over a very long period of time. At least 25 generations of people are involved. The first generation gets disrupted. They become maladjusted. That group is then followed and helped to bolster their own, what I'll call power, their rise to power and control. We call them strongmen.
So, John, the answer to your question, it's in layers, and we can jump into any one of a number of layers. For me, at the topmost layer, as a geologist, what I can say is we are living a 13,000-year cataclysmic cycle that you could call not just a planetary, but a solar system and beyond reset. That is driving all of the change. Some organizations, some individuals are aware of that, and some are not. Those that are jockeying for position to amass security and wealth and resources, knowing that this is coming as it has in the past. And that trickles down into organizations that we see like, World Economic Forum. What's fascinating about this, John, is you look at the individuals who are identified with the movements. So Klaus Schwab, for example, driving World Economic Forum, they have advisors that are typically behind the scenes, not so public. And those are the people that you really want to see where their ideas are coming from. So when it comes to Klaus Schwab, he is always, there's an academic, and his name is Yuval Harari, who is, and if you look at his speeches and his talks, they almost parallel everything that Klaus Schwab's parallel what Harari's ideas are. Harari believes, I'm just going to a couple of quotes. He says that humans are hackable animals. He says free will is over. There's always been another strategy. It's the organic strategy of consciousness and us that is not looking at us as hackable and is looking at an organic evolution. And I think you're seeing those two strategies conflicting right now. They're two different agendas, two different visions, two very different ideas of what's happening in the world, number one, and then number two, our relationship to what's happening in the world. So ultimately, I think I agree with Penny. I think the organic strategy and I think our natural biology is going to win out because we are scalable in the presence of the changes. The technological innovations, chemicals in the blood, chips in the brain, AI, it's fast, it's efficient, it's not scalable when we begin putting it in the human body. If we all adopt that transhuman movement in the presence of these greater changes, we have no way to scale and adapt. So I think our hope is in our pure humanness. And that is what I think two factions are occurring. And I think the pure human faction is the faction that we're going to see ultimately I don't like to look at this in terms of win or lose, but I will say triumph.
Just for the sake of, let's say, for clarification, I often look at this and call it 2D, 3D, and 4D. Now, on the 2D level, we're seeing it being played out right now on our screens across the world. And it's what we know about the kind of geopolitical movements. And that really is what we see. They're going towards centralization. They're going towards control. And so I think they're going towards technological centralization, control of power. Now, we see that in the AI and all these things we've talked about. And that's what we see now in front of our screens. And that's what many people are arguing over because they're taking sides. But you take off the Russian doll and then you get the next layer. We call it, let's say for sake of argument, a 3D layer. And we see that there's certain very specific cabals or what we call elite groups or certain overlord, whatever they want to call themselves. And they know something's coming because they have access to a larger information. They may have access to off-world information as well and off-world manipulations. And they know something's coming. And that's why they've got all these bunkers and they've got everything else in place. And these are the people who really are quite dehumanizing the global population. In fact, they're despiritualizing the human population. And they are the ones who are really interested in depopulating in numbers across the globe. They want to, they're interested in transhumanism. They see that the only way to survive what's coming is to get rid of what they call the useless eaters or the hackable animals. They want to really kind of centralize their kind of control. And they see that a merger with technology perhaps is a way out of this because they're scared and they think that what's coming maybe is going to kind of potentially wipe out the carbon-based biological human. And they're using climate change as a way to get their agenda in place. And I think that on this 3D level, these elites, which are being left in power into these structures, are aiming for that. And they want to be in place so that they have a lesser population and they can kind of ride through this vortex or bottleneck around this time. Now, for me, that's still a middle agenda, but a lesser agenda. So if we go to, let's say, the 4D, for sake of argument, then we're going towards really a evolutionary junction point. And as Gregg pointed to, these are grand cycles. We can call them cataclysmic or we can call them mutational cycles. Because of these cycles, there's so many forces coming in and the pressure's so great. And we do get these mutational moments coming in. And I call them developmental impulses. And these developmental impulses, that's when you can get a kind of a re-trajectory of the human condition. And also, when you get a pressure of forces, other capacities and abilities come out of the human being, which are so far latent. These are capacities which are, let's say, psychic capacities, organs of perception, expanded consciousness, be able to contact with the consciousness field. So this is a moment where an evolutionary moment, juncture where humanity really does move on. And that's really a metaphysical moment. Now, on the 3D level, these elite groups know that's coming. And they, of course, can't deal with that because if humanity has an expanded capacity, then they lose their footing, which is why they're going down the transhumanist route. But I do feel that there's going to be a lot of difficulties, a lot of pressure and discomfort to go through that bottleneck. But I agree with Penny and Gregg that on the other side, it's a biological human, a future, not a technological one.
Yeah, there seems to be kind of a natural cosmic confluence, if you will, of things like collapsing magnetosphere or the magnetic pole shift that's thinning the magnetosphere. And at the same time, you've got this increase of energy you got, that we're running through because of going through the plane of the galactic plane. And then we're going into a new area of space that's got different kind of energetics and chemical and magnetic and electrical kind of composition. And so there is almost that there is this cosmic thing that is happening, but also it's Penny, is this just opportunistic? Are these other forces see this coming? Is it predictable? And are they just taking advantage of this and have seen this coming for a long time?
Yes, it is. So let me back up a step. One of the things that people from elsewhere in the cosmos do as part of their work, big work, is map stars. What are the conditions on that star? What are the frequencies from which that star is formed? What kind of atmosphere, what kind of geology, what kind of life would survive there, et cetera, et cetera. And where are they positioned in relation to their sun? Because the suns are electric, and when they collect too much dust, we'll say there's too much of an accretion on those big suns, those stars, they short out and they blow. And it can be a little blow, a big blow. But what has happened is that there's been now finally some sort of listing or research that shows that approximately every 3,000 years, there is something of an event. The big events are 12 to 13,000 years. So Gregg's, 13,000 years, give or take 600, 800 years. There's a big blow by the star. What the little man in brown robes showed me was that this next move, we would end up with a displacement, if you will, of 17 degrees. The North Pole would be 17 degrees further south on the Greenland side. And if that's the case, then we really need to understand what it is to live without our fancy technology. Now, if you're living inside the planet, a lot of people are going inside. My reaction when I first saw that is, oh, how convenient. They're all going to bury themselves and they'll be out of the way. There are big collapses inside. There are big caverns, multi miles wide and deep inside the planet. And those shift around. There's water inside the planet that shifts around. So there's no guarantee that burrowing into a mountain is going to stay above the sea level, number one, or free of 19,000 feet of snow, which has been recorded in the past, which then becomes a glacier. It's not just opportunistic. It's taking advantage of the conditions on the ground to help your plan. If you're planning a takeover.
It's opportunistic. Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Then you want to plan it so that the population comes into this massive change that they cannot survive. If you can get your people to be in a position to survive as well as possible, then you own the planet once it's done.
But John, this is where pure human biology comes in. If you are a hybrid with a lot of tech in your biology that you're now depending on, AI, chips in the brain, chemicals and bots in the blood to create an immune response, and we lose the fields that Penny is talking about, that organism is in trouble. Whereas the pure biological, the pure human organisms have the ability to scale and adapt. Penny, this is geologically what you're saying is so right on, because the sun, our sun typically shields us from incoming cosmic radiation, but it goes through cycles where its shields drop, where it loses its magnetic field. Earth, our magnetic field also shields us. And what you're talking about is we're approaching a time, and Kingsley, this may be that 2040, 2046 time, where the sun is in between solar cycles, and the Earth, it's not going to go, we're not doing a polar shift, but we're doing, it's a migration. And what happens is without the actual shift, those magnetic fields are lower. And Penny, what you're saying is so fascinating, because the crust of the Earth is only about 36 miles thick, and it floats on the mantle. So the Earth doesn't tip, but the crust slips, and it slips that 17 to 20 degrees. And we've seen this happen in the past and it can slip back or it can stay slipped. That's how you get those, the kinds of things. I mean, it's fascinating to see this whole thing playing out, and we're only beginning to understand that this is all related to what's happening in the core.
One more quick question to Penny. So who are these guys who are trying to take the place over? Huh?
Well, they are people from Sirius, from the Orion, that area. They go around taking over planets, and they're very good at it. They have a history of being successful. However, they have given up here.
Technology may end up being a false economy, because we know what we'll be talking about is that what we're going through is going to really basically bring down the technology, because we got all the satellites and all the connections, etc., are not going to survive this big incoming event. So that's why I feel there's a real big push now, because the benefit that these players are going to get from technology will be from now to the event. And then after the event, of course, the shift goes on to humanity. And Penny, you're talking about they want to, make advantage of this event to, let's say, get an upper hand over humanity. But I would say that humanity will not be the same after the event in several ways. And that's why I refer to this as a mutational event, because not only are we going to be physically displaced and all that, but with so much radiation coming into the Earth because of the weaker magnetic fields and obviously the increase of what's coming in, that radiation is going to mutate humanity in certain psychic capacities, I feel. But I think psychologically, psychically, and consciously, we're going to be altered. So we're not going to be in the same space to be controlled. And that's why there's a push now, because we're at our weakest moment. Universes get reset and galaxies get reset. But but the experience that you go through that can be utilized in a very real way from the inhabitants of that simulation. So we shouldn't just think that we're kind of digital avatars. And I think some people kind of get a wrong perspective. We are still sentient kind of spirit beings that are going through the experience of the simulation and the reset.
How do you know that universes get reset?
Because they do.
They go through their own evolution as well and their own upgrade.
How do you know?
They develop.
How do you know?
Well,
You
according to
them.
Huh?
You can watch them.
Universes? You can watch universes reset?
Yes, you can watch universes reset. They behave just like a cell.
What's a universe look like?
It looks like a cell. It looks like a cell, and then all of a sudden it comes to this place where all the stars and the various fields line up, just like meiosis or mitosis in a cell, and it begins to move apart, and you have two. They're connected for a while. It looks like a barbell, but then they grow, they develop. It's a much slower process than what the cell is going through.
This is some pretty deep, pretty heavy stuff we're talking about. And from my perspective, I think what we can leave people with is that we're wired for these kinds of changes. The human body is wired if you give your body what it needs, so that your body can do what the body does. And there is a faction out there that is being taught that we will be saved. You don't have to be the best version of yourself. You don't have to be at your best. You don't have to care for yourself, because some intervention is going to take care of you. And that's a perspective, and I respect that. What the evidence suggests is that when we are the best version of ourselves, when we're as healthy as we can possibly be, our bodies know how to adapt. But beyond that, our bodies know how to scale to the new conditions, the new magnetic fields, new levels of gamma radiation, new levels of cosmic radiation. And so I just want to leave our viewers, we cannot necessarily control what's happening out there, but we have total control over what's happening here. We didn't come here to die at the end of a cycle. We came to live and thrive and transcend and evolve. And we can only do that through the gift of the biology that was given to us.
So thank you all, and I appreciate you coming and being with us again, as we always do. And for those of you who are viewers, we really appreciate, you can't do this if people don't watch. And so it's really, you're an important part of the equation of this whole thing, and we appreciate it very much. We appreciate your questions and things, and we hope that you'll send some more. And you'll find out more about what we do here at the Arlington Institute at arlingtoninstitute.org. And we've got a whole bunch of things. Gregg will be with us at Transition Talks here in August, and we're looking forward to that. We just had a wonderful time with Penny a couple of months, a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And we've got a great lineup of speakers that are coming every month, and so you can find out all of that at the website. Thank all of the three of you, and thank you all for viewers. And please come back and be with us on Quartet in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, viewers. We love you.
Yeah, amen.